Welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Coming up on today's episode, here we go. Mangala is confirmed. Newcastle still want Elanga. Spurs set to hijack Forest over Wonder Kid. And Christina Aguilera actually leaves Nottingham Forest. All this and plenty more coming up on your latest Forest news. Let's get into it. Today's video is sponsored by our good friends at CCL. Check them out by clicking the link in the comments or scanning the QR code. You can grab yourself this 27-inch gaming monitor down £65 to only $174.99. Or if you're looking for a new keyboard, I recommend you the Cougar Attack X3. You can save 58% on it at $39.99. Or if you need a whole new PC, a gaming one, can't go wrong with the Ryzen Core i5. Code FFTV25 gets you £25 off. And make sure you go and check them out. The link's in the comments or scan the QR code. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to a jam-packed episode of lots of information on your latest Forest news. If you haven't already, get those likes up. Guys, check it. Just double check. Is that thumb click there? Make sure you've clicked it. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new, as 40% of you who are watching this are not subscribed. Make it your New Year's summer July resolution that if you're not subscribed, hit it. It's completely free. And let's get into the news. Mangala is a here we go, confirmed to Lyon. Now, I know this is technically old news. We told you about it 2 weeks ago, but everything's been confirmed and clarified in terms of the details. And what we'll show you as well during this video is the amount of profit Forest have made over 3 players. It's so much money that Dick Masters and his cronies have no leg to stand on with Forest when it comes to PSR. I've had loads of messages from you guys asking me, are you sure we're safe? Are we definitely safe? I'm telling you now, categorically, Forest have nothing to worry about. If you want to ask any questions, just send us a message on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, or on WhatsApp. They're all our details down there. So the deal currently, well, let's rewind to January. Forest sent him out on loan to Lyon for £8 million. And that pretty much covered off the amortization of Mangala for the rest of the year. We'll come on to the details of that in a second. Now, the initial agreement was going to be a £15 million option to buy. Yet somehow or other, Forest have pushed this transfer value up another £5 million to £20 million. So Forest have got the initial 8 plus the 20 million, and the icing on the cake is a 10% sell-on fee on Mangala. This is an absolute cracking deal. Now, I know Ant and Crypto will be crying about Mangala going. I separate the player from the deal. In my mind, I think he was still one of our better midfielders, 100%. But we needed the money and it had to be done. Well, actually, technically, it got to the stage where Forest didn't need the money. When I show you the figures, you'll see why. But how are you feeling about Mangala? Am I going to get some WhatsApp messages a bit like from Ant and Crypto crying about him going? Or do you think Forest had to do what they needed to do? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so before we move on to the Elanga story, let me just show you, as promised, the profit Forest have made. Now, I've shown you a lot of these graphs, so hopefully you guys are starting to get, or tables, is the right word, to get familiar with these. But this is just going to be a very quick summary of what Forest have done. So, very quickly, the Vlachodimos deal, we did that yesterday, you guys should know that. Bought him for 4 million, annual amortization is 1 million, remaining value was 3. Forest sold him for about 10 to 12. So on the low end, Forest have made £7 million profit on Vlachodimos. We covered that off yesterday. If you haven't seen the video, yesterday. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Now here's where it gets meaty. Let's start with Niakhate. Niakhate, Forest bought him for 12.7. We're going to call it 12 for ease of maths. His annual amortization was 4 million. Forest had 4 million left on what they owed on Niakhate, and Forest sold him for a whopping 31 million euros. which is £26 million. Now that in itself gives us a profit on Niakhate of £22 million. So let's move on to Mangala and break this one down. Again, his value was about, well, bought for was about 12 million, about 12.5 million. But again, ease of maths. His annual amortization is 3 million. He has 2 years left on his contract. So Forest still owed 6 million on him, and we sold him for 20 million. And that gives Forest a whopping profit on Mangala of 14 million pounds. Don't stop there, because the 8 million as well haven't added on, which brings the Mangala profit up to 22 million pounds. So from these 3 players alone, Forest are able to put down, roughly speaking, and we've rounded things down or up for ease of maths, 51 million pounds on PSR profit. And don't forget, you still got the 48 million to add from Jono money, a few other deals. Obviously, there's stuff coming out as well from the players we've bought. But Forest needed, we believe, 20 to 25 million to be safe. They've gone and raised 51 million. I want to see some applause in the comments down below, because Forest have knocked this one out of the park. Now, a couple of you are going to be like, well, hold up, because the cutoff date was the 30th of June. We had already cleared PSR before the cutoff date. This is just bonus. And in fact, I think Forest will use this in next year's figures, unless they need to dip into it in an emergency, because a day or two won't matter too much. These deals were already in place and they were just being basically processed through, as Kieran Maguire told us the other day. So, cracking news from Forest. What do you think? Are you guys now all relaxed about PSR? And we can just sit back and watch the other clubs that might get screwed over. And at the moment, honestly, it only looks like it's going to be Leicester. But get your thoughts in down below. So, the bromance between Forest and Newcastle may be set to continue. And as I felt and predicted and had this weird feeling in my waters yesterday, they will still be interested in the likes of Elanga and Morgan Gibbs-White. But there's been more sources and reports that's come out on this yesterday to talk about why. And the main reason being is they're about to sell Almiron to Saudi. And the Newcastle fans really turned on him. He had this little hot patch about a season or so ago, and they were just like, Mickey, Mickey, Mickey. Now it's like, get out, get out, get out. So anyway, that aside, if he goes, that becomes their priority position, that right wing position. And that's why the likes of Eddie Howe are still really keen on Elanga. Now, from what I've seen, and obviously I don't know too much about Newcastle's comings and goings, but they seem very confident that Almiron is definitely going and most likely to Saudi. Now, Saudi's transfer window, I believe, doesn't open until the 17th of July. And that's potentially why this whole Elanga deal to start with, when we were talking about Mr. Anderson, didn't happen then, because they need to get Miguel out and into the new financial year. So I fully expect come mid-July, they're going to be back, Newcastle. But surely Forest have some chips that they need to cash in with Newcastle and be like, remember when you were in trouble in June, oh Toon? Right, that rhymed. You now need to overpay if you want Elanga. Don't know why I'm wagging my finger, but whatever. And that's what I think could potentially happen. Now, we know Forest don't really need to sell Elanga, nor does there really much of an appetite to sell him. But every player has his price. So I'm intrigued to see what happens when Newcastle come in for this one. The Newcastle fans are there like saying, nah, it's not going to be Elanga. We're coming in for Morgan Gibbs-White. And there's been a few Newcastle fans trying to put reports out there saying that they're in for Morgan Gibbs-White, not Elanga. Sorry, Toon. I ain't seeing it. I ain't seeing it. Apart from some fanzines here and there, there's not been strong enough links for me to give it even like one drop of sweat. And Morgan Gibbs-White will hopefully be staying at Forest. But I believe what I was saying to you guys yesterday about my theory and my fear and my questions about why did Forest help Newcastle could be about to unveil themselves in and around the 17th of July when the Saudi market opens. So keep an eye on Almiron if you want to see what happens with Elanga. Let's move on to the next topic. All right, just a quick update on a player that Forest have been linked to somewhat-ish heavily. Not that heavily. I want it to be heavy because I really want him. Is Wesley Snipes from Corinthians. Now, freaking Spurs. Goddamn Spurs. It looks like they're coming in to table an offer to get him. And the Corinthians want about 25 to 26 million for him. There was some very loose reports that Forest had put 21 million in. Some were saying it was rejected, just to remind you guys. Some were saying Corinthians wanted a 50% sell-on clause in the contract. Whichever way it was, it hasn't progressed any further. And it looks like Spurs are going to hijack this and sweep in. However, Napoli are also interested in him now. And I think Forest are slowly falling down the pecking order on this Wesley deal. Murillo, get on the blower, man. Speak to him and tell him to come to Nottingham. It's the only choice. It's the only choice. And speaking of players that will not be playing at Forest next season, Christina Aguilera's gone, man. I can't believe it. It was like a shot out the blue. Gone. Boom. Shipped away to the Greek Father's third team. Do we call them Rio Ave? I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I'll just put a Portuguese accent on. Rio Ave. And he's gone for an undisclosed fee. Now, it's not the end of the world. As I mentioned, it's Marinakis who owns him. So if he turns into the next Christina Aguilera or something, then we can probably buy him back for cheap anyway. Or there'll be some kind of buyback clause, I would assume, built into the contract. Or maybe a sell-on fee. Who knows? But Marinakis will not screw Marinakis. So I'm disappointed about it because I saw plenty of potential in him. I know he wasn't a starter. I know he probably wouldn't have gone into the team even this season, but I would have probably just loaned him out this year, one more year. But then you could argue he's kind of would have turned into the Alex Maiton. But he's gone, and I'm going to miss calling him Christina Aguilera, and I wish him all the best, and hopefully Forest have a buyback clause when he turns into the next Messi. What do you guys think about that? Would you have kept him? Would you have sold him? Or would you have loaned him out? Let me know in the comments down below. And that brings you up to date for this morning on your latest Forest news. Make sure you've hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And go check out those offers from CCL. I'll leave a link on the end screen for it in the comments or scan this QR code. See you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.